Fans have been in an up-and frenzy ever since the Showtime show Billions has been renewed for its latest season. But what are the new details, what will the storyline be, and who will be in it? To find out more on the latest scoop on your favorite show, keep watching this video. The announcement. The show was initially released in 2016 on Showtime and has since then received a huge cult following on all social media platforms. Currently, the show is in the midst of completing its 6th season, which has received a series of mixed reviews from both critics and fans. A lot of this was due to the massive change in the dynamics of the show when one of the main characters, Bobby Axelrod, played by Damian, made his departure. A lot of fans, like us, were a little disappointed by this news, and the show has reflected this. There is something very clearly missing, and you see that when you watch the show. There isn't that kick that it once had. Maybe we all just need a little time to adjust to this new character mix and lick our wounds of the departure of a fan-favorite character. However, during this February, fans were over the moon with the announcement of the renewal of the show for its 7th season. But that's not really a surprise. Despite mixed reviews, the show still manages to bring in an impressive number of viewers. And at the end of the day, that's all the big guys at Showtime really care about. Details about the plot of the new series are a little hazy as of now, since not a lot has been revealed about the show, but here's what we know so far. The release date. Okay, we don't really know this per se, but this assumption is a pretty good one. Season 6 was released in January 2022, and since we're only 4 episodes down at the moment, it's too early to say when the 7th season of the show will air. But looking into the past trajectory, the show only releases 1 season in 1 year. Assuming that this season wraps up around the mid of the year, we can expect the 7th season by the start of January 2023. That's a really long wait, but it seems like it will be worth it. As the 6th season progresses and unfolds in front of our eyes, we can see that the show is going in a whole new direction, something that we haven't witnessed before. We guess the departure of Lewis from the show and how sudden it was forced the writers to put their thinking caps on and give the fans curveballs that we didn't see coming. It almost feels like a brand new show, and as we all know, the first seasons are always a little hard to navigate through. Hopefully, by the time the 7th season airs, we'll have a good plot development for the new dynamics. The plot. Although very little about the plot has been revealed at the moment, fans are still in the middle of figuring out the plot of the current season, so it's too early to say what the new season's plot will be, but that doesn't mean that we don't have our predictions. A lot of people thought that the departure of Axelrod would mean that the show was reaching the end of its line. However, the show has proven that it can and will keep going. The plot of the show doesn't depend on 1 or 2 characters. It depends on one thing: greed. The show is based on people making profits via asset manipulation, hostile business takeovers, and land grabs. It was a dynamic that had been established early on in the show when Chuck Rhodes, played by Paul Giamatti, saw himself as a crusader against the billionaire class's gluttonous lifestyle. Back then, he had one specific wealth management operator in mind at the time, Bobby Axelrod. This led to a series of almost borderline psychotic fights between the two, fueled by shaky alliances and questionable methods. Regardless of how basic the conflict between money and the law may appear, it was still entertaining. But the Chuck-Axel rivalry had eventually reached a breaking point in the lead up to season 6. We mean that there's only a certain number of times you can double-cross someone. After a while, it becomes too much and, frankly, boring. That's what happened in the show, too. The plot twist was beginning to run empty, even though it had some really good moments that we all cherished deeply. How did the writers approach this issue? Well, they took an incredibly unorthodox approach and eliminated Axelrod off the writing board, replacing him with Mike Price, a man who was only introduced shortly before. Have to admit, that is one impressive way of dealing with your problems. It does give it a bit of a Game of Thrones vibe. How will the world look like post-Axelrod? Now the question demands, how will the show progress after the departure of Axelrod? To us, it didn't seem like Chuck's attempt to corner Axelrod on Axe Capital's involvement with a cannabis startup linked to the illegal market would stick. By the way, have to admit, genius plan. As the show has established, Axe would rather bite off his own limb than give Chuck the upper hand. But when the walls closed in on Axe, he made a surprising move. He accepted defeat. He ran off to Switzerland, where Chuck couldn't lock him up, and somewhat lose-lose situation. Now, despite the absence of one of its main characters, the show continues. Prince is the new boss of Michael Prince Capital in the 6th season, and most likely the 7th as well. The rest of the cast has been left to adjust to their own new normal after a few of Axelrod's minions opted to form their own company, a storyline that we could visit soon in more depth. Chuck, however, stays the same and in his mind has replaced catching Axe by catching Prince. Poor guy just can't move on. We're now assuming that a lot of the coming episodes will just focus on this dynamic with these two trying to double-cross each other now. It's possible that Chuck hasn't made peace with the fact that Axe never landed behind bars, and maybe he never will. Now this focus will be on Prince. Looks like Axe never really left the show. Taking Prince down is, of course, easier said than done. Damian Lewis mentioned in an interview that after 5 seasons, Axe became predictable and you could understand what his incredibly overinflated ego would do next. The same way that Chuck could. Prince is a whole different story. He might have replaced Axe in the eyes of Chuck, but for the rest of the world, he's a totally different person. His defining trait is that he wants to be an ethical billionaire, someone who wants to earn his money by following the rules and leaving a good mark on this earth. Yeah, we can't imagine Axe doing that. Our guess is the next season will explore this factor more. Chuck can't use his regular tricks to catch this big fish, so he and the writers are going to have to get creative. Hold on to your seat, folks. It's going to be an interesting, albeit bumpy, ride. We're seeing a bit of this bumpy ride at the moment in season 6, and it's not really that surprising since Damian Lewis only left the show a few months ago. Hopefully by next year, the bumps will have smoothed out. Will Axelrod make an appearance? Now here's the question on everyone's mind. Will Damian Lewis make a comeback? For this, we have 2 words. Highly unlikely. Sorry folks, but it doesn't seem like we will see Axelrod in either season 6 or 7. Axelrod's departure was a result of circumstances outside of Billions. Lewis told the New York Times that he wanted to stay in England and be closer to his family since his contract was up and his wife, actress Helen McCrory, had passed away due to cancer. Moreover, he also believed that his time with Axe had come to an end. He said that it was hard to be creative with the character that everyone had figured out, so there is only so much creativity that someone can bring to the table. After such a tragic loss, no one can really expect Lewis to make a cameo anytime soon either. It hasn't been mentioned that season 7 will be the last season for Billionaires, but if it is, we would love to see him on the screen one last time. What can we expect? Well, a lot of backstabbing and corporate greed, of course. That part is expected. But we're still treading the unknown waters with somewhat unknown characters and unknown character dynamics. Fans can expect the same level of drama, writing, and themes. We'll know more of season 6 moves forward, and as we get closer and closer to the end of the year. Well, that's all for this video. Thank you all for watching. Let us know in the comments what you think of the new season and how excited you are. Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you can stay up to date on more Billions news.